So, okay, so when we look at this change, E changes to Y. E ka ban jata hai Y. So, how does it happen? Simply in the way that there is a sandhi. So, when E changes to Y, what happens is you look at where the sound is pronounced in your mouth, right? You look at where the sound is pronounced in your mouth, and why does E change to Y? So, E is pronounced at the back of the mouth, right? If you notice, E is very close to the throat and the mouth at the starting point, right? E. And then again, you look at A. A, is pronounced towards the front part, near the teeth. There it is pronounced. So when a combination happens, then what happens is the closest one is the where the tongue touches just before the teeth. So la, ra, like that. These sounds. So there, which sounds are there? They are called the semi vowels or semi consonants. So semi vowel, that the one closest there, the one close to E is ya. So that is why the tongue moves naturally onto from E to ya. It moves naturally from E to ya, because when you are joining E with a, the tongue moves forward, and that is the science behind the combination of these letters. So Nadi, Nadya, and so
Yeah, Nadia, Nadia, Nadia.
yeah. So when you say it together, you will notice clearly that it happens that you start pronouncing that way. The E gets pronounced as yeah. So let's come to the sutra today. Now, the logic system of Gautam. We have the 6 darshan shastras. So out of these 6 darshan shastras, the one that we are studying right now is Nyaya, which is basically the study of logic, right? So all of these were enumerated by our rishis of old, and they have described different aspects of the reality, how to understand the reality around us. So Nyaya is basically examining the logic. So when we are looking at this logic, then I just go back to the 47th sutra. We are doing the 48th today. So what does it say? The 47th said vikar prapta nam punar avritte hai. So he says vikar prapta nam punah avritte hai. Something that has gone, a modification, vikar prapta, something that has reached a state of modification. Then what happens? Punaha vikar prapta nam apunah avritte. It does not return to its original form. It does not go back to the previous form. Just like the example was given here is milk is modified into curd. So then the curd cannot become milk again. So that is the exact status of the comparison of E getting back to E changing to year. So E is changing to year. So E is said to be not a modification of year. Year just replaces the E sound that is being said there. So then there is a Purva Paksha. There is an opposing argument that will say no, we will not agree, right? So that conversation is going on in all these previous 20 sutras. So then what is the next argument being given? That is in the 48th sutra. That is, we'll read here 2 to 48. This is the second chapter, second part, 48 sutra. Or we have a total of 5 chapters divided into 2 sub chapters, or you can say 10 sub chapters. So this is the second chapter, part 2, or you can say book 2, chapter 2, that way also. So there are 5 books, 2 chapters each. So in this one, what we have is the examination of sound is being done. So what does it say? The 2 to 48 sutra, what does it say? Suvarna Adinam Punar Apattehe Hetu. So he's saying, you said that something that does not change back to its original state. There you have said that milk and curd example you have given. But I have another example for you. What is the example? He says, Suvarna Adinam. Suvarna is gold. Or you can say other metals also. Adinam. Adinam says, etc. Right? So anything, any metal or any basic material out of which something is fashioned. So punah apattehe hetu. In there, the gold, when it is modified into different ornaments, then you can again melt the ornament back into the original gold. So here he's saying that something that is being modified from gold into from that an ornament is fashioned out. Then that ornament, when it is fashioned, that ornament can again be converted back into gold, right? So that is his objection. So he's saying that just like in that same way, why can't you accept that E can change to Y and back again? So that we accept that E is modified into Y. E का विकार है यह. So whether it is a vikara or not, we are proposing that it is a vikara. We are saying it is a modification. So what is the answer? We just looked into it towards the end of the last class. So what does it say in the next sutra? The answer is given. I think you would also know we have used this analogy multiple times in different discussions in even Atma Bodh and Tattva Bodh also. So what does it say? 2:49. Tad vikaranam suvarna bhav vyatirekat. So he says tat there vikaranam, that vikar, that change that you're talking about, in that change what is happening? Suvarna bhav avyatirekat. That suvarna bhav, that goldness is never left out. Avyatirekat is never abandoned. So he says that when you are fashioning a piece of gold into an ornament, then the gold still remains. You are not, your vision is on the ornament. तुम्हें ornament दिख रहा है, but इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि वहां पे gold नहीं है. So you can see the ornament, but that does not mean that the gold is not there. Whereas in the case of milk and curd, what is happening? The milk is totally changing into the curd. So you cannot see the milk there. Right? So that is a total transformation, just in the case of like an irreversible chemical reaction. Right. So in this way, this transformation of gold is made into another form. The form itself changes. There is only a change of form. The original gold does not change. Right. So that is his answer given here. Right. So he says, therefore, the E sound is basically changing into is replaced by a ya, and there is no, it's not like when you are saying that it is a vikara, just like in the case of gold. So he gives further argument also. So that is in the next sutra. So what does it say? Second chapter, second book, second chapter, 50th sutra. So what does it say? Varnatva vyatirekat varn vikaranam pratishedah. So varnatva vyatirekat, he's saying that there is, according to the objector, no inaptness in the analogy, as the modification of a letter does not relinquish the general notion of letters. So he's saying, what is he saying? Varnatva. Varnatva. There is something called a varna, the letter, and then there is a general characteristic of it being a letter, which is called varnatvam. Varnatvam. Right? So just like there is a go and goatvam. So a general category of cow. So that category of letters being there is a letter and its category, right? Varnatvam, one or varnatvam, a letter and its category. The category of letters, he says, varnatva vyatireka is never abandoned. He says that in both the letters, E and like you are saying in gold, there is a common gold is always there. So varnatvam is always there. The one property is there, that both are letters only. That letter part is never left out. So he's giving this new argument, right? So it's basically a kind of circular argument, but we'll come to the answer also. So varnatva vyaktirekat one vikaranam pratishedah. So one vikaranam pratishedah. So this modification of a letter does not relinquish the general notion of letters. The one vikaranam, the one or the letter which has been modified, that we say is we cannot object to. So basically, if there is a letter E changing to Y, then he's saying that in all through that, they both retain the characteristics of being letters. दोनों में वर्णत्व हमेशा रहता है. जैसे सोने में सुवर्णत्व रहता है, दोनों गहनों में, ऑर्नामेंट्स में, सब में सुवर्णत्व रहता है. सो ऑल ऑर्नामेंट्स आर रिटेनिंग दैट कैरेक्टरिस्टिक ऑफ goldness. The gold is always there. So there, here also in the case of both the letters, varnatva is always there. So for this, he is providing another answer. So what does he say? Samanyavato. This is the 51st sutra, 2 to 51, right? So Samanyavato dharma yogo na samanyasya. So samanyavato, just like there is a common quality, a common notion that is associated with anything. So that quality we say dharma yogo na samanyasya. That belongs to its properties and it does not belong to the object itself. What does this mean? So if you are talking about gold, he says, if you are talking about gold, that what does the gold indicate? Gold has two different modifications, right? So if gold has two different modifications, let's say one is there is a necklace and there is a ring, right? So in that case, you can say that yes, then the ring and bracelet are different modifications of gold. They both have the characteristic of gold. So there, can you say that the ring changes into gold? No, you have to say the gold changes into the ring, the ring changes into the necklace. The ring does not change into the necklace. It is the gold which changes into either the ring or the necklace. Similarly, for Varnat also, they have a Samanyam. They have a common feature, right? I agree with you. You are saying that they have Varnatvam. Both of them are Varnas. That does not mean that the individual letters are modifying into each other, right? So there, gold will always remain, right? And then from that you can fashion different ornaments. But you cannot say that you can make a necklace from a bangle or a necklace from a ring. Why? Because you will need gold ultimately. Gold has to be there. Without gold, they cease to exist or they cease to make any kind of sense. So in this way, if you understand that both the gold and the 51, I'll just bring up. So samanyavato dharma yogo na samanyasya. We are talking about common. If you are talking about a common property, then that commonness has to be at the level of material and not in the form of a property. So goldness is a property of that dravyam which is originally gold. So that retains itself through all the gold ornaments. The ornaments do not change into each other. It is the gold which changes into the ornament. Similarly, Varnatva, which is a quality of all the letters, which is the property of all letters, that they are something that can be pronounced or that can be used to indicate something or that can join together to give some kind of meaningful word. So for that to happen, we say that it is not the letter which is modifying into another letter. The letters have a common property which is called Varnatvam, and that is there in all the letters. We cannot in any case say that the E changes it to Y. E ka Ya ho jata hai, ya Ya ka E ho jata hai. That will also come in the next argument. So what happens in the case of the reverse, right? So there we'll look into then we go into the next one. So basically the argument is given here is, the answer that is given is that you cannot say that in the case of gold, the ornaments are changing into each other. It is the gold which is changing into the ornaments, right? So you cannot say that you can make a bangle from a necklace. So you will need gold in either case. So in this way, you have to evaluate that. Then he says about Nityatva. So 52, 2 to 52. Nityatve vikarat anityatve cha anavastat. Right? So he says, if the letter were eternal, nityatve, it could not be modified, vikarat. And if it were impermanent, it could not abide long enough to furnish the material for the modification. Right? So here what he's saying is that in reply to your previous accusation, many windows open and close. So in reply to the previous accusation, you are saying that you have earlier said that sound is not eternal. The sound is not nitya. It is not eternal. So what is the property of something that is nitya? There cannot be a vikar in that. उसमें modification नहीं आ सकता. Whatever is eternal, there cannot be any modification in that. So if you are accepting that the sound is non-eternal, then you have to accept that there can be vikar. Modification is possible, right? Akshar is, it cannot be, it can be modified. So he says, nityatve vikarat anityatve cha anavasthanat. There, what will be there will be a dosha there. There will be a fault there. Now, what is that called fault? Anavastha dosh. What is anavastha dosh? If you look at it, if we say it in English, you will say regress ad infinitum. So if you need to prove something that depends on another thing, then that second thing depends on a third thing, then that will keep on going into infinity for something to be proved, right? So just like we saw in Atma Bodha, to prove an object, we use the sense organs. So to prove the sense organs, we use the mind. To prove the mind, we use the soul, Atma, consciousness. And if we say that to prove that consciousness, we need another consciousness, then what will happen? It will go into regress ad infinitum. ऐसे चलता ही जाएगा. We will never get to the final part, right? So we have to accept that there is one reality where something can be accepted as the final source from which everything arises. So that is accepted here as the soul reality, Brahman or whatever we call it. So from there, everything has arisen. It can be what we call a dependent arising. The thing that has come out is not actually modified from that. It is merely a projection upon that, but it has not been modified into that, right? So in this way, whatever is nitya, he says that will always have be without any vikara. So you are accepting that it has vikara, sound has vikara. So why are you not accepting that the letter can be modified into another? Because otherwise, what you are happening as saying you will go into anavastha dosh, because you are saying in one way you are saying that letter is non-eternal, and then again you are saying it is unmodifiable, right? So here, what does he say to this? We'll look into the next sutra. So अगले सूत्र में so here we are exploring two kinds of nitya and two kinds of modification, right? So this is 2 and 53. What does he say? Nityanam ati indriyatvat tad dharma vikalpacha one vikaranam pratishedha. So he says there are different kinds of things which you have to accept. Some are non-modifiable, even though they are not nityam. How? He said nityanam. In nitya, there are certain things that we call ati indriya tattva that are beyond the grasp of the sense organs, right? So what will come in that? In that will come like space. Space you can understand by reasoning, but it is not in the purview of the sense organs. The sense organs cannot grasp. Even vayu also, it can be it cannot be seen, but it can be just felt. So there, some say it is atindriya, but basically it is just on the borderline. Then we have Kala. You cannot see Kal, time, right? So it is beyond that manifest level. And then again, finally, of course, Atma is there. So Atma is the perceiver. So how it can be perceived? So Atma is in that level again. So all these Atindriya ones are Nityam. In the way that so soul, of course, is Nitya. The other elements we say are in the sense of Pravahi Nityam. They are always in the state of eternal flow. The universes will keep modifying into one another. So Akasha will always be there. At the end of the creation, there will be a pralay. Everything will merge into Akash. So other elements will not remain. Then again from that Akasha, the remaining elements will emerge. So that cycle continues on. So in those Nitya, which are Atindriya, then what happens is their dharma, it cannot be, you can say that there is the dharma or their properties do not change. वहां कोई change होता ही नहीं है. But in Varna also, there is Varna Vikarana Pratisheda. So in Varna also, we are talking about this Pratisheda because, why? Because whenever you pronounce any letter, so there what happens is that letter that is being pronounced, once one letter is pronounced, you have to finish pronouncing that, then you can move. Can you pronounce two letters at once? No, right? So in that way, they are eternal. So you cannot use both of two letters together. You cannot pronounce two letters together. That is also in the topic of the next one. So I'll go there, I think. So basically what he's saying is that there are two kinds of Nityam. Two kinds of Nityam. One is Atindriya, which is beyond the grasp of the senses. So there the Nityatvam is different. But there are also visible objects which are Nityam, which will retain their characters. So there, what is the Nityatvam about there? There is a property of that, which we called in the earlier sutra, Varnatvam. Varnatvam will always remain. If whether it is manifest as a Varna or not, it depends. वर्ण की तरह व्यक्त हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा वो डिपेंड करता है by the joining of the tongue with the different parts. Then only it will become vyakta. Otherwise, it is avyakta. So, so varna, but that varna will always, that varna, we cannot have a vikara. It cannot have a change. That varna will always there. That is why we call them akshara also. They cannot be modified. Akshara. उसको हम parts नहीं कर सकते. You cannot divide it. So, so there, varna cannot be divided. So that is why we accept that there cannot be any kind of modification of them. And then again, other second argument is given for the same thing in the 54th Sutra. So 54th Sutra, what does it say? Anavasthayitve cha one uplabdhi vat vikar upapatti. So he says, if we say, if I'm accepting your anavastha dosh, so still, can you show me an example? Anavasthayitve cha one uplabdhi vat vikar upapatti. Can you say that any varna you have observed in your life where vikar upalabdhi is there, where you can actually see the vikara? You can see, you can pronounce one word, one letter, and then it is changing into another. Or you pronounce one letter and then without pronouncing the other one, without using your tongue again, you are that it spontaneously like an echo is going. So you go to the mountain and you say your name, and some movies it shown, then your lover's name comes back. Right? But does it actually happen? No. Whatever you have said, only that will come back. So one uplabdhi var vikar upapatti हमें दिखती नहीं. We don't see that. We don't see the vikara happening to a letter that has been pronounced. What does this mean? This means that when we pronounce a particular letter, कोई भी word, then that will have to stop being pronounced before you can pronounce the next one. Right? So एक के बाद एक हो सकता है. One after another, they can be pronounced. It is not possible that you can pronounce one and accept it to change into the other one. Or simultaneously you can pronounce two letters. That is also not simultaneity is not possible in the pronunciation of letters, right? So that is what is the notion here. And then also the next one, 55. So second, 55. So vikar dharmitve nityatva abhavat kalantere vikar upapattehe cha pratishedah. So vikar dharmitva. If we say something that has the property of being a vikar, a modification, dharma is the property, then that will have nityatva abhava. Then that will not be nityam. नित्यत्व उसमें अभाव है कालांतरे in a later time, then that thing we say we accept is not possible. That thing we say is not possible. So anything that has what we call a vikar dharma, vikar dharmitve, then we say if it has nityatva abhava, it does not have nityatva, then kalantara, in a later time, vikar upapattehe cha pratished. In a later time, it will have a vikara that also we cannot in any case observe, right? So basically what is being said here? If we pronounce a particular letter and we are saying it is not changing into another letter now, अभी नहीं हो रहा है, तो बाद में कालांतरे, then later on also you cannot say it will change into another letter, right? Future में वो कहीं पढ़ा होगा और पढ़े पढ़े चेंज हो जाएगा तो नहीं होगा. You cannot say that in future, like I pronounce it now and someone is listening to that letter, the word at a very remote distance and it is loud enough to be heard there at a later time, then also that is also not observed. Immediately I'm talking about, we said that the letter does not change because when we pronounce it, it can never be together or simultaneous. It has to be one by one. But also once we have pronounced kalantare at a later space or a later date or a later distance, there will not be a change in that letter. The letter will not have a vikara. So that also is not observed. So he's ruling out all the possibilities. कोई भी possibility नहीं छोड़नी है. He's ruling out all the possibilities that a vikara in the letter can occur at in any state. It cannot occur right at the time of pronunciation. It cannot occur from the point of travel from the person who's saying it to the person who's hearing it, and also at a later time or a later distance. Also, it is not possible. Like I think at that time maybe it was not available. But today also we can say if we record someone's sound and listen to it many days or many years afterwards, then also there will not be a vikara in that. No, वही रहेगा. That sound will remain the same, right? So that the recording also will remain the same. If there is any modification, that will be due to the modification in the instrument playing it or the place where it is recorded. Then it might get damaged. So that is a different thing. But overall, the words will remain the same. The varna will remain the same. So that is what is being expressed here. So we'll move on to the next one then. So vikar dharmitve nityatva bhava kalantare. In a later time, vikar uppattehe, that it will have a vikara. There will be a change in that. That we are saying cha pratishedha. So there cannot be a denial of that. So 56. Next we are moving on to 2 to 56. So in this, what is being said? The natural modification of letters, which we can say in the manner of when one letter is being, there is a sandhi, then there can be a sandhi split also, sandhi vichhed, where again the letters will go back to the original state. So what does he say? What are the rules of the changes of words? Prakritya niyamat varna vikarana. He says letters are not modified also because there is no fixity as to the original material of their modifications. So in the case of what happens when there is a real modification, like milk is modified into curd, hence given the example is given, and then then one letter is being modified to another. Hmm. Then what happens is E gets changed into Y. Hmm. So there is a Prakritya Niyam. There is a Prakriti ka Niyam. There is a rule there according to which that happens, right? So there, that niyam we say is not fixed. The opponent is saying, why? Aniyame niyamat aniyamah. So he's saying, some say that there is no lack of fixity because there is the absence of fixity itself is fixed. Okay, it sounds confusing. I'll simplify it. Okay. So in these two sutras, if we take together, 56 and 57. So 56 and 57, we say, if we accept that there is a vikara, what will be the fault there? That we can say that in the modification of a letter to another, there is no kind of rule of prakriti. We have proved earlier that there is no natural law which is showing that this modification is happening. So in this way, E is not a modification of ya, or we can say the reverse also. So for that, uh, the person who is refuting this, the opponent, he says aniyame niyamat aniyama. So he says that you are saying this is called chalvada. This is called trickery or fooling someone in an argument. Right? So he's using basically a mix of words. ऐसे words use कर रहा है जिससे confuse हो जाए. But of course, it is the author himself who is writing it. So what he says is, if you are saying that there is no fixed rule of this happening, uh, so why don't you accept that that if you're saying that E is changing into ya, then also there is a reverse rule. There is a niyam. What is the reverse rule? Then when you do the sandhi vichet, again you are getting back the original rule. So why don't you accept that if this rule is there that one letter is being replaced by the other, then the other will also be replaced by the previous one. So in this way, the rule of changing of one to the other is negated by the rule of changing the second one to the first one. So how do you say that this rule that you are stating is a proper rule? So because basically what he's doing here is he's giving the reverse example of sandhi viched, where the letter changes back to the original one. So here also, is it again a vikar? So first one was modified into the second, and the second back to the first, or is it simply a replacement again? So that is being answered in the next one, next sutra. Okay, so he says, niyam aniyam virodhat, niyam aniyam virodhat, aniyame niyamacha pratisheda. So he says that by saying that the absence of fixity is fixed, you cannot set aside a reason because the fixity and its absence are contradictory terms. So he says that in respect of letters, there is no fixity as to their modification. You contend that although there is no fixity, the absence of fixity is fixed. Our reply is that though the absence of fixity is fixed, it does not establish fixity as a positive fact. So this is the basic translation. So if you look at it, this, what is being said here? Firstly, it was said that the letter modifies from E to Y. So that was proved wrong. Then he's saying that again, the letter when you do a sandhi, E changes to Y. When you do the sandhi viched or the splitting back of the original words into their original forms, then again, because you can say those two words separately, slowly also, right? So there you will have to retain the character. You can say Nadi plus Uttar is Nadyuttar. But if you say Nadi and then after some pause you say Uttar, then the two words will retain that original letters, right? So there, what is happening is that there is a rule that is being applied for the replacement of one letter by the other, and then again the letter reverts back to the original state when that sandhi is removed, right? So he says that in answer it is being said here कि whenever there is a modification of one letter to another, then if you, according to you, it is a modification, then that same role will apply in the reverse also. Niyam aniyam virodhat, aniyame niyamacha pratishedha. So just like you are applying the logic that we have applied the logic that the letter E is not being modified into year. So using that same niyam also, we are also telling you that when in the case of Sandhi Viched, there also there is a replacement only happening. And how is it happening? Uh, that is being expressed in the next one. How the modification of letters happens. Okay. So why does the modification of letters happens? So गुणांतर पत्ति ही उपमर्द ह्रास वृद्धि लेश श्लेष श्लेषेभ्यः तु विकार उपपत्ति वर्ण विकार. Right? So what is being said here is gunantar upapatte. So if we are looking at the letters that are being modified, gunantar upapatti. So two represents gunantar upapatti, two represents but. So but he says gunantar upapatti upamard ह्रास वृद्धि लेश श्लेषेभ्यः then vikar upatti hi vर्ण vikar. So he says कि if you are saying that there is a modification in the letters, we object to that and we say that whenever there is something that is seen as a modification, then that is what is happening. What is happening there is गुणांतर अपपत्ति उपमर्द ह्रास वृद्धि लेश और श्लेष. So what are these? In some cases, there is an observation of a letter that is appearing to modify. So first one is gunantar apatti. So what is happening in gunantar? Then we say there are some kinds of swaras that are changing from uddat to anuddat. So what is that case there? When you are pronouncing a certain letter, then it can be pronounced in a lower sound, or it can be lower pitch, and it can be pronounced in a higher pitch, right? So there the letter itself is not being modified. In gunantar upapatti or in conversion from uddat to anudat, there also the pitch is changing, the letter itself is not changing. Gunantar upapatte hai, there also the pitch is changing, the letter itself is not changing. Then after gunantar you have upamarda. So upamarda is in there are certain rules in Sanskrit grammar where one letter or there is a root word. So that root word changes different forms when there is a combination, right? So if there is a asti dhatu, asti exists to exist, that will change into bhu. So bhavati, asti. So asti something that exists, it will change into bhu dhatu, where it will represent bhavati. So there what is happening is the as dhatu again is being replaced by the word bhavati, where a rule is being applied, where one word is totally being replaced by another one. There also it is a replacement and not a vikara, not a change, right? So in Upamarda also there is a grammar rule by which two different sounding words mean the same thing. One is the root form, which we call the dhatu. One is the root form of the dhatu, and the second is its final conjugated form. So this as dhatu will become bhavati. So in all the different forms it will be bhavati, bhavata, bhavantaha, and so on. So all the different declensions will happen. So any verb can take different forms according to the gender, according to the number also, the number of person, whether it is singular, whether it is dual, or whether it is plural, right? And then according to the person. So it will be different according to Pratham Purush, Madhyam Purush, and Uttam Purush. So the person who's speaking, the Uttam Purush, Madhyam Purush, the person being spoken to, and Pratham Purush, the person who's being spoken about, right? So in English, it will reverse. The Pratham Purush of Sanskrit will be the third person in English, right? So that is the difference. So in all these Sanskrit words, the verb that is there, the verb will change into different forms where we call that, that change is called Upamarda. And then, of course, there is a Hras. So Hras is where one letter changes into a longer form, shorter form, sorry. So if there is an A sound, it can change into A. So what is happening there? There also, again a replacement is happening. A is being replaced by A, or A is being replaced by A. When two words join, it then also it is observed. And otherwise also in the middle of a word also, you can see this happening. A and A, and E, and U, and so on. All these vowels, they take a longer or shorter form. Dirghatvam and Hrisatvam, right? So these are things that are happening there. Then Lesh and Shlesh. So, Lesh and Shlesh is, there are certain rules in Sanskrit where is there is a word that is the root word, a dhatu word. From there, a vowel is omitted when forming the word. So, if it is us, then a can be removed. A can go out. And so, in that way, there is, there can be a change. And so in this way, Gunantar, Upapatti, Upamarda, Ras, Lesh, Shlesh, these are all different forms of a Sanskrit word which has to which a rule has been applied. कोई भी नियम लग जाता है उसमें. And because of that rule being applied, that letter, some of the letters might be omitted, some of the letters might be replaced by another letter. So there also we are saying that there is no modification. We are saying that there is only a replacement which is according to the known rules of Sanskrit. So in this way, we have to understand this Varna Vikarana. The Varna can never be a Vikara. It has always to be a Adesha. What is a Vikara? A modification of a letter. Adesha, substitution of one letter by another. So these are the rules that are being examined here in this section, right? So then in the next class, we will move on to the next part. So I'll not go to the next sutra because there it is talking about another property of words, that is what does a word denote? So here we are talking about letters or akshars. Letters combine together to form a word. Word can denote an object, which we call a vyakti, or it can be used to denote a shape, or it can be used to denote what we call a jati, a general category. So which of these is to be denoted, that we will look at in the next class, right? So any questions for today? George, Ramesh ji, welcome. We are seeing you today for the first time. I hope it's not confusing joining in the middle. So anything, George, you want to ask for today?
Nothing for today. I think today's class was a bit more
Yeah,
straightforward.
simple. I think I think there on the book
yeah.
also mainly. Some words that needed a bit more explanation I've given to you today, right? So I hope it's all clear. Okay, then we'll wind up for today. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Stop the recording.